So, right, that would give you 3 marks there. So the values themselves and the z-score, percentages, label, and I kind of do care what this looks like. Okay, so if you make it look a little bit like weird, like if it's weird looking, it's got to be kind of like a smooth hill, right? So kind of work on that. And then we use the graph to figure out the percentages. So 60,000 or more, 60,000 or more, right? We have 2.5, so that's 16%, right? If you come up with 16%, I'm happy, right? What percentage? So we're asked for percentages of household. We'll have an income between 30,000 and 90,000. So no z-scores, but actual values. So it's between here and here, right? So you can go 68 plus another, plus the 13.5 plus 2.35, right? So you can actually speed that up if you can. 13.5 plus 2.35. And what do we have there? This is 15.85, right? Did I get that right? Did I get that right? I just made this, so I don't have everything ready to go there. So that's what you're supposed to get there. You get 1 mark for that. Winnipeg consists of 200,000 households. How many households earn less than 30,000? So it's not just percentage, it's households, right? That's where the 2 marks come from. So this would give you 16%, right? 30,000 mark is here. So if you add the percentages, 16% of families, 16% of households, right? So if you have that 16% show up somewhere, you get the mark because you recognize that you're supposed to. So households would be 0.16 times 200,000, and what is that? 32,000. 0.16 times 32,000. Make sure you round this if needed. So you get another mark for the 32,000. So 1 for 16%, 1 for 32,000. That's that. Calculate the z-score for an income of 20,000. So, right, you go 20,000 minus 45, right? X minus X bar over standard deviation. 20,000 should be negative, right? If you're looking at a $20,000 income, you're somewhere in here. So it should be negative, between -1 and -2. That's what you're expecting it. So it's negative 25,000, sorry, over 15,000. So negative 1.67 is the z-score you want there. So you get a mark for that. No units, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Calculate the income with a z-score of 2.24. So actual income. So that's when they're asking you for the value. So you need to go z times standard deviation plus the average. So it's 2.24, sorry, times whatever the standard deviation is, plus the average. You can actually type that in one shot. $78,600 we're talking. Okay. Yeah. 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 Let me just make sure you understand what just happened. A z-score of 2.24, you know that it's going to be significantly higher than your average, right? Because it's positive. So if this is your average, 1, 2, 2.24 is somewhere in here, right? So it should be greater than 75,000, the income we're talking about. So this z-score would line up with that income. So if you had every single z-score under the curve, an income of 78,600 would have a z-score of 2.24. We just don't do that because it's way too much work, right? We couldn't possibly do that. Oh, that page adds up to 9. So give yourselves a mark out of 9 on this page. Okay, Toronto has a mean income of 60,000, a standard deviation of 25,000. Sketch both normal curves under the same. So Toronto dashed, Winnipeg solid. So it doesn't matter. What I want to see is, right, this would be 60,000 here for Toronto, and it has a higher standard deviation. So I know that it's going to be lower and it's going to be flat. Like, it's going to be flatter. It's going to be more spread out. Okay. Winnipeg is 45,000. So I don't care how far back, but it should be, you know, a decent amount far back, and it's going to be taller because the standard deviation is smaller. Right, that's what I'm looking for there. So they kind of overlap. So this, if you want to, right, this is Winnipeg, this is Toronto, right? So you kind of have them side by side. So the mean tells you where along the x-axis, and the standard deviation tells you if it's flat, low, or close together and taller, okay? That's what that is. So you get 2 marks if I see that evidence, right? One should, right, Winnipeg should be taller than Toronto for sure, and one should be, right, more spread out, and Winnipeg should also be further back. You got to make sure Winnipeg is further back to the left, right? Because remember, this is your x-axis, which represents income. Okay, next. Use the mean standard deviation of Toronto for the following. Determine the z-score of an income of 20,000 in Toronto. So you have 20,000 minus the average in Toronto is 60,000 over 25,000, right? So you're doing the same thing. I'm using the same income as I did for Winnipeg, but now we're relating it to Toronto. So that'd be negative 40,000 over 25,000. That's negative 1.6. Determine an income with a z-score of 224 in Toronto. So in this case, it would be z-score times the standard deviation plus your new average, right? That's 116,000. Because in Toronto, your average is higher. So going from that average up 2.24 standard deviations, it's going to be a higher income, okay, compared to Toronto. Write an equation with the vertex of that, 2 x-intercepts, and it's wide. So I hope that you know that you're supposed to use the vertex form. So x plus 3.45 squared plus 17.19. Remember that the x value, right, when it comes in here, changes to signs. So you have this taken care of. You want 2 x-intercepts and wide. So to have 2 x-intercepts, you need to have a negative a value, and it needs to be wide, so 0.5 or half or anything less than 1 would give you the marks there. So I would say half a mark for this. It needs to have the correct sign, right? Half a mark for this part, and then 1 mark because it has to be opposite, right? The sign has to be opposite to this, and it has to be less than 1. Right? So that's where your 2 marks come from. 30 kilometers per hour, 2 miles per hour. I know that 1 mile has, what is it that I gave you? 609? Yeah? Or did some have 4 decimals? Or is that what I gave you? 1.609? 093? Okay, thank you. So you just cancel kilometers here, and we want hours. So it's just 30 divided by 1.6093, and that's 18.64 miles per hour. 1 mark for that one. So 7 for this page, 9 and 7, 16,